Hi everyone, welcome to another crochet tutorial with me, Laura, and as promised I'm going to be showing you in this video how to crochet my knit stitch beanie with a pom-pom on the end. So this pattern is not knitting, this is actually crochet, and it's not even Tunisian crochet, this is normal crochet you can use with a normal crochet hook, and it creates this lovely knit stitch effect here. And we're going to be making this hat, so it's in 3 colours. You've got a band colour, got colour here, colour there. You can of course just use 2 colours or 1 colour, whatever you like. And also we're going to be sticking a pom-pom on the end as well for fun, and it's super simple to make. So thank you for modelling whatever your name is. This, well, you need to give her a name. I need to give her a name at some point. Let's put you over there. So this is the hat here. If I bring my camera down, this is the hat here, and it's made in 2 parts really. We're going to start off with this band here. Now this pattern is fully customizable, so you can make this for any age, child, teenager, adult, a man with a huge head, whatever size you need, this is completely customizable. So, and what we're going to be using a DK light worsted weight yarn, so that's a yarn weight of 3. You can use any yarn you want, to be honest with you, and I've chosen 3 colours. You could use 2 colours or 1 colour, whatever you want, but if you're using 3 colours, you're going to need at least 3 balls of yarn, to be honest with you, for this pattern. It does take a little bit of yarn. So yeah, so you can use any yarn that you like. I'm going to be using this yarn for this video, and with that I'm going to be using a 4.5mm crochet hook. Okay, but you can use any hook size that's suitable for the yarn you are using, so you don't have to follow this exact material list. And it's also a good idea to have a pair of scissors and a yarn tapestry needle as well. Okay, so I've done a video before on this particular stitch, the knit stitch, and it's basically done with half double crochets, but I'm going to show you again in this video. So the first thing we're going to do is create this band. So what we're going to do first is get some yarn. Okay, so I got my yarn, and the first thing we're going to do is a little slip knot. Nice and easy, and this pattern I think is suitable for beginners. It's quite easy. And to begin with, we're going to chain 20 to begin with. So we're going to chain 20 to create our headband. You may, if you're making it for a child, you may want to chain a little bit less, say 15. So just have an experiment, because we're going to be making this part here, and that's chain 20, but it's whatever it is folded in half will be the final brim size. So I'm going to chain 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. So I've chained 20, and what we're going to do for the foundation chain, this foundation row, we're going to chain an extra one as well. So chain 1 after that. So in total I've chained 21 in total. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over, and in the second chain from our hooks, we don't count the loop on our hook. There's our first chain, there's our second. Put your hook into there and do 1/2 double crochet. So this pattern's in US terminology, but in UK terminology that's a half treble. So we yarn over, pull through all 3, and we're going to do 1/2 double crochet in each chain to the end. So we end up with 20 half double crochets in total. So half double crochet in the next chain. So you're just doing 1/2 double crochet in every stitch, every chain back to the other end. Okay, so you've got a stitch count of 20 at the end. Half double crochet in there. Half double crochet in there. So I'm just going under 1 loop only, which I don't normally talk about how I crochet into my chains, but I think for this pattern it would be useful to just work under that one bit of yarn if you can. So what that does, it will keep your chains really visible. You can still see your chains there for when we need to join the brim into a giant loop. So all shall be revealed later on. But just one half double crochet in each chain to the end. Okay, just coming up to the last 2 chains at the end, half double crochet in them, and the last chain, half double crochet in there. Okay, so you should have done 1 half double crochet in each chain across, starting in your second chain from your hook, and you should have a stitch count of 20 if my camera wishes to focus. Stitch count of 20 by the end of that round. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a little chain 1, not going to count that as a stitch, and we're going to turn our work. Now this is where we start to create the knit stitch pattern. So this here, this effect, this knit stitch, and what we're doing is we're forcing the V's, as I call them, to the front of the project on each row. So with half double crochets, you should have 3 loops, or two lots of V's. Now if we look at the top here, we've got some little V's running facing the right hand side with the point of the V. I get a needle with the point of the V on the left hand side, these little V's here. Okay, so the point of the V is on the left hand side, but on the side you also have another V here facing the other direction, and you've got little the point of the V is facing on the right hand side for these ones. So these 3 loops, this one here we're going to call the side loop, then this is going to be the front loop, and then this one up here is going to be the back loop. So you should have 3 obvious loops, 1, 2, 3, covering your 2 lots of V's basically. And so what we're going to do for this row is we're going to force these top V's to the front, so we get our knit stitch effect. So what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over and do a half double crochet into the side loop. So instead of going into the stitch like normal like that, so under that V, we're going to put it under this little side loop instead. If my hook wants to go under that, I'll show you that a bit clearer. Under that little side loop, which is the bottom half of that other V with the point to the right hand side, that side loop. So you're leaving that top V with the point to the left on the top. So once you're under that side loop, we just do a half double crochet. So bring the yarn through, do a half double crochet. I'm going to do that all the way across. So yarn over and find your next side loop. So there's the normal stitch, the 2 loops at the top. You want to find, focuses, we want to find this side loop here, okay, and work under there and do a half double crochet under there, okay, and do that all the way across. Find the next side loop, so it's the bottom loop of the V where the point faces right, and do a half double crochet in each side loop. And what that does is it's forcing the other V shape with the point facing left to the top of your project. See there? It's forcing it to the top. So keep doing that all the way across, 1 half double crochet in each side loop to the end, keeping a stitch count of 20 of course. So again, just look for top V and then the second V. Look for that V where the point faces right, then in the bottom half of that V, that's your side loop. So hopefully you can see that on your project. Okay, so just coming up to the end, there's our second to last V, and do check your stitch count because it can be easy to miss that last one on the corner there. So you want to find that very last V, it's quite hard to see, and make sure you find it. So always check that your stitch count is 20 after each row. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay, so that's that row. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain one and turn again. So ignore your chain one. So now this is going to become our front because we forced those V's, those top V's, to the front. You can see there. So this is going to be the front of our project where we always want the V's facing this side, and that's going to be our back. Okay, so if we have a look on here, this becomes our front where we're always forcing the V's to the front, and our back looks like this. So you shouldn't see any V's at all. So for this row, what we have to do to make sure we keep our V's to the front is we work into the back loop. Okay, so there is our side V with the point facing right, so that would be our side loop there. But this time we're looking for the top V where the point faces left. We're going to work into this back loop this time. So if you were to work into the stitch as normal, you would go through it like that. But we want to go into the back loop only of that top V and do 1/2 double crochet in there. Okay, and that forces the side V's to stay at the front, as you can see there. I'm going to do that all the way across. So there's your side V, find your top V facing the opposite direction and go onto that back loop only and do 1/2 double crochet in there. Okay, and do 1/2 double crochet in each back loop all the way to the end. And as you can see, that forces those V's to the front. Okay, and they're facing the same direction as these ones. And we just repeat that over and over again, those 2 rows, depending on which side you need to push the V's to. So 1/2 double crochet in each back loop to the end. I'm just going onto that back loop. Okay, so you can see it forcing those V's to the front. Okay, so just coming up to the end. Again, make sure your stitch count is 20. You can sometimes get to the end and think that's it, but there is a little one. The end ones are always a little bit tricky to see, so don't miss that last back loop, that last stitch. Otherwise you'll end up with a wonky brim. We don't want that. So check your stitch count is 20 after that row. So that's your second row. And then what we do is we just go back to what we did for the first row. So we do a chain one. We always chain one at the end. Don't count it as a stitch and turn. And this time, because we want to keep our V's to this side, we need to push those top V's to the front. So we're going to work into the side loop again. So again, find that, there's your top V, point facing left. And there's your side V, point facing right. And the bottom half of that side V is your side stitch. And into there we do 1 half double crochet. And we do 1 half double crochet in each side stitch to the end, and that pushes those V's, those top V's, to the front. Okay, see them being pushed to the front. So we're going to repeat this over and over and again. Repeat those 2 rows over and over again until your project wraps around your head, basically. So if I just bring that up, so this is going to become our front. You see the knit stitch coming together. It's really cool. So this is going to be folded in half like this eventually. So what we need to do, let's bring in old what's her face, Beatrice, shall we call her? You need to repeat these 2 rows until it wraps around the circumference of your head, and do it from the brow down to the ear and around the base of your head. Or if you're modelling it on someone else, you need to just do it around this part and all the way around the other side back to the beginning. And so that's why it's fully customizable. You can just repeat those 2 rows depending on how wide, how big someone's head is. So I'm going to do, here's one I made earlier, and bring in the piece that I've been making. Here we go. So I've just repeated those 2 rows again and again and again and again. So this was the piece I just showed you here. Okay, so I just repeated that again and again, and it will curl. I've noticed that it doesn't matter whether you knit the knit stitch, Tunisian crochet the knit stitch, or even do this version of the knit stitch, it always curls. It's like a nightmare, but it doesn't matter if it ends up looking like this. Don't worry, because this works its way out when we put the hat together. So I've measured this around the size of my head. So if I show you on, and if I can do this with, I'll be off camera for a second, bear with me. Okay, so let's zoom out so you can see this. Okay, so that measures around the head. This fits me, so I'm making a hat to fit an average size lady's head. So my head's about 22 inches, so it's very average. Okay, so I've actually repeated it I've done it got about 71 rows, about 72 rows in total, in case you wanted to follow this exact pattern. But what we're going to do now is we're going to, this is the wrong side, we're going to fold it in half, the wrong side, so that our ends meet like that. We've got the right side on the outside. So it becomes a loop, and put our hook back in. What we're going to do now is we're just going to join it with a slip stitch. So I'm going to go and find the first stitch on here from the foundation chain. If you remember, that's why it was a good idea to make sure we can still see them. Put our hook into there, that first chain, put it into the corresponding stitch on the other side. So, which is going to be there. Put that into there. And getting our yarn, well, it's knocking my polystyrene head over. Going to bring that through that stitch and through the chain, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch like so. I'm going to do that all the way across. I find the next chain, next corresponding chain this side, bring that through both stitches, do a slip stitch. Repeat that all the way across, so we've joined our project into a loop. Okay. Okay, so just coming up to the last 2 stitches to join it. one. You should have a stitch count of 20, just like all your other rows. And there we go. So hopefully you got something that's now joined at the beginning and the end. You've got like a band, so make a good headband. And what we're going to do now is turn it into a hat. So the first thing to do though is we're going to work one single crochet neatly around this edge along the top all the way around here. And I worked out that it's pretty much about, you just got to work it evenly, so nice and neatly. Stitch count doesn't matter, it's completely irrelevant. You just don't want to make it too loose or too tight. So what I thought of doing is finding the first set of V's here. I'm going to put my hook into that top upside down V there. Bring that through, because you don't have proper stitches to work into, you see. So I've just gone through that upside down V. And I'm going to do a single crochet. So in UK terminology, that's a double crochet. And then I'm going to put one in between the V's. So I'm just going to find a gap wherever, somewhere in between, and do another single crochet. You can see that's not too loose and it's not stretching this or pulling it together too much. And the next one I shall put into the upside down V, single crochet in there, and then the next upside down V is pretty close. So because if you notice very carefully, there's a slight gap in between, and then you get two sets of V's that are closer together, and a little bit of a gap, two sets of V's, a little bit of a gap, two sets of V's. So every time I get two sets of V's close together, I'll go straight into the upside down V. See if I can get my hook in there and do a single crochet. And then I've got a bit of a gap, so I'm going to put a single crochet in the gap. Okay, then I've got two V's close together, so I'll put a single crochet in that V and then a single crochet in the next V as neatly as I can. And then I'm going to put it into the gap in between. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So I'm going to go into the V, so go V, V, gap, V, V, gap, V, V, gap. Sounds like a band name, V, V, gap. I'm going mad again. Okay, and then into the gap. So I'm working one single crochet neatly around this top edge, okay, making sure it doesn't pull the fabric or make it too bulky. It just needs to be nice and flat. So if you just do a single crochet into the gap, then single crochet in a V, single crochet in a V, single crochet in the gap, single crochet in the V, single crochet in the V, then single crochet into the gap all the way around, then it should be fairly neat. Okay, so I'm going to do that, then I shall come back. Stitch count doesn't matter at all, just needs to be nice and neat. You don't even need to work to an even or odd amount. It's a really flexible design because I like to make them as easy as I can. I do try. So I shall do that and I shall come back. Okay, so I'm just coming back to the beginning, and I think I'll just slip one in there as well. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the first single crochet that I did. See if I can find it. Into there. So I'm just going to slip stitch into there. So hopefully you got something looks like this. So it's not stretched or too tight or anything like that. Nice neat stitches around the edge. Okay, because you don't want to distort your headband. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to turn this inside out so we get the wrong side up front. So I'm going to turn this that way, like that. And what we want to do is, this is now at the bottom. I'm going to make that at the top. Move this out of the way. Make that at the top so that when we fold this band over, it looks like that. So we want the yarn we're working with on the inside at the top. We want this knit stitch on the outside. So I'll show you that again. so logistically it's a bit confusing. So you've just joined it there. We're going to turn it inside out this way, okay, this way, okay, so that's now at the bottom. Then we turn that upside down, simple as that, and then we'll be able to fold that open like that for our brim. But now we're working with our project here. We're going to join a new colour, a different colour, so I'm going to go for this colour to begin with. So I'm using the Sublime yarn by Serta, extra fine merino wool, as you do. It's a very posh hat, this one. It's going to be a very, very scrummy hat. Show you what I'm using. So we're going to get our next colour and put our hook back in here. Okay, that's at the top. We're going to join our new colour in a little chain one. So we're just going to bring that through the loop on our hook. So now we're working with our new colour. Okay, so I had about this much yarn left of my ball from this colour. So you should, and this is for a lady size, so I think even if it's for a man's size, you should, one ball of yarn should make enough for a brim. Okay, now what we're going to do is create the length of our hat. So we're going to chain up, and what you need to do is work out, if we get our little model back here, bring her in, okay, what we need to do is, your brim's going to be about there obviously, isn't it, just over the eyebrows. So you need to measure from there, I'll do this sideways, from about there to the crown, so that's just at the back, say where you would have a ponytail if you had long hair. So there's your brim, so from there to about there is how much we're going to chain. Okay, so I'm now working with my next colour, and what we're going to do then is I'm going to chain, but for this particular size, for my size, I'm going to chain 35. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 33, 34, 35, because I tried 30 at first, but I think 35 would be a better fit. So this is going to be from the top of the eyebrows up to the crown of the head. Okay, so I've just put this on just to quickly show you, and you can see that 30 chains reaches to about there on the crown of her head. So that will be the length of your hat from where the brim is. Okay, so you either chain more or less depending on the size of hat that you're making. Obviously if you're doing it for a child, you might want to chain less. You can just measure, if you want to take measurements for somebody else as well, you can just take measurements for the circumference of their head, so you know how to do your brim, and then from just the top of the eyebrows to the crown on top of the head. And then what we're going to do, I'll show you what to do next. Chain to 35, so I'm going to add an extra one for this foundation row. So 36 in total. Then we're going to do the same as what we did for the brim. So we're going to yarn over, then our second chain from our hooks, we don't count the loop on our hook, there's our first, there's our second, going in there. We're going to do 1/2 double crochet. I'm going to do 1/2 double crochet in each chain to the end, so I'll have a stitch count of 35 for mine. You might have more or less depending on the size that you need. So a 1/2 double crochet in the next chain and 1/2 double crochet in the next chain. So 1/2 double crochet in each chain to the end, just one in each. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the end, back to the main hat. Just in the last few stitches. So 1/2 double crochet in each stitch, each chain to the end. That's that last one. Check you've got a stitch count of 35 or whatever you need. And then when you're back on the main hat, we need to find these single crochets that we did, but we need to make sure we're facing the right way. Now that's quite a key thing. As you can see here, we've got the knit stitch on the front, and we don't want that. We actually want the, make sure this is the right way around. We want to make sure that we've got the back of our project facing us, okay? And then we're going to work into our single crochets that we did earlier. So let's get my yarn. So make sure you're working into the back facing you, not the knit stitch, the back. And we're going to find the next single crochet. These single crochets we worked neatly around the edge. We're going to go into that one there, the first one there, and do a slip stitch. Then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch as well. Let's do a little slip stitch in there, and we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch as well. So we're slip stitching into the next 3 stitches on the main hat. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Then what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work 90 degrees, and we're going to start to push our knit stitch to the front, so this side. So the first thing we're going to do is find exactly the same as we did for the brim. We're going to find the side stitch. So there's our top V, there's our side V. Find that bottom stitch, that side stitch, just like you did before, and do a half double crochet in there. Okay, so then that pushes that V to the front, creating our knit stitch. I'm going to do 1 half double crochet in each side loop to the end. Okay, keeping a stitch count of, in this case, 35. Okay, so instead of working into the stitch as normal through that top V, I'm going to find that side V and go under that bottom loop, which is our side loop. Okay, just like we did for the brim. So 1 half double crochet in each side loop to the top. Okay, so just coming up to the end at the top, still doing 1 half double crochet in each side loop, and make sure your stitch count is correct and don't miss that last one on the end. Okay, and just like the brim, we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to chain 1 and turn, so don't count your chain 1 as a stitch. And as you can see, we've pushed all our V's to the front here from our last row. So this row we need to work into the back loop. So there's our side loop, there's our front loop, there's our back loop. So going into your back loop, we do 1 half double crochet and do 1 half double crochet in each back loop to the end in that top V, just like you did before. Okay, and then that pushes those V's to the front. And do that all the way to the bottom. Okay, so coming up to the bottom, still working 1 half double crochet in each back loop. And there's the last one. And then again, making sure that what you want is your knit stitch next to the back on the brim. So you want to see the back of your brim, but the knit stitch needs to be the front, because obviously we're going to be folding this over, so eventually you'll get knit stitch, okay? So make sure that you've got the right side facing you, or the wrong side facing you in this case. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch in the next 3 single crochets on the main. So that was the last one we worked into. Find the next one, next stitch, do a slip stitch in there, 1, slip stitch in the next stitch, 2, and a slip stitch in the next stitch, 3. Okay, so 1 slip stitch in the next 3. Turn your work 90 degrees, yarn over, and then we're going to work back up to the top. And when going to the top, we work in the side stitch, so it's always side stitch on the way up, back stitch on the way down. And be careful not to work into any additional stitches that you've done down here, or any of these slip stitches. You need to make sure, it's a good idea to turn it over, see where your first proper stitch is before you work into that side stitch, just so you don't add any stitches by accident. And it does help to use a different colour. So 1 half double crochet in each side stitch all the way up. And do check your stitch count periodically to make sure you're not adding or losing stitches. So So to repeat that over and over again, doing 1 half double crochet in each side stitch up to the top, and that pushes all your stitches forward, and then do a chain 1, turn, don't count the chain 1 as a stitch, and do 1 half double crochet in each back loop all the way down. And when you're down here, you just slip stitch in the next 3 and then repeat. Okay, and you've got your knit stitch next to the back of this, so it all lines up when you fold it over. And keep repeating that until it goes all the way around back to the beginning, and then I shall join you to show you what to do next, and you should end up with a big flat piece of project afterwards. Okay, so I shall do that and then I shall come back. Right, side stitches on the way up and back stitches on the way down. Okay, so I've repeated that all the way round, so now I'm back at the beginning. Hopefully you got something that looks like this. So it's gone all the way around, and then I ran out of the lighter blue. Of course you can use this, carry on using the same colour, but I actually like the 3-tone colour, and I joined my new colour at the top on the way down, but I don't think it really matters whether you join at the top or the bottom, so don't worry too much. But now I'm back at the beginning, and you may have no stitches left, you may have 1 stitch left or 2 stitch left, doesn't matter as long as you haven't got 3. Anything 3 or more, then always make sure you use those up. But I'm back at the bottom, so you want to end on the bottom, and I'm just going to, I think I've got like 1 stitch left, so I'm just going to slip stitch into there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to join up the 2 sides. So we need to find the beginning stitch over here, put our hook into there. Might seem a long time ago since you worked into those stitches, and we're going to work into the corresponding stitch on the other side, and just work into it normally. So we're not going to work into the side stitch, we're just going to work into the stitch as normal. I'm going to come through both stitches and do a little slip stitch. We'll do that all the way to the top, so find your next foundation chain, go into there, and hopefully you've got a stitch count still of 35 or however many you were working. Corresponding stitch, come through both stitches, do a slip stitch. So it's the same as the brim when you joined that. So into the next chain, next stitch, and then do a slip stitch. Keep doing that until you get to the top. Okay, just going up to the end, last couple of stitches, and then we got left. Last one. Okay, so slip stitch the 2 sides together all the way to the top, like so. Now what we're going to do, you should have a flat piece of work now, and hopefully you've got knit stitch on the top here, and you should have the back of the knit stitch underneath, because what we'll do is we'll turn that over to create the brim. What we're going to do now though is we're going to sew the top closed, so we're going to cut our yarn, but you want to leave a little bit for sewing, so take a good bit of length for sewing. Cut your yarn and get yourself a yarn needle, then just pull that loop through till you get to the end. That secures that, and then we'll thread the end of our yarn onto our yarn needle, and we're just going to sew the top of this closed into a hat. So you may want to hide those tail ends first, so I might do that first, come back. Okay, so I've hidden those tail ends as if by magic, and what we're going to do is we're going to sew that to secure first. And we're going to drawstring the top of our hat closed. So I'm going to come through, keeping your sewing roughly near the top. I'm going to come through a stitch, and I'm going to go out through the middle of those stitches. I'm going to come out through the next stitch, and then down through the next stitch. And pull nice and tightly. Then come up through the middle of the stitches, down through the next stitch. I'm going to do this all the way around, pulling it tight as I go. If you've got if you've got like a wool yarn, you may want to be careful not to pull too tightly. For this other hat that I made here, I actually swapped to a cotton yarn because every time I pulled it tightly, the yarn would fray and pull apart. So you might want to choose a more sturdy yarn to sew the end up. But this yarn's working okay. There we go, and you can see it being drawn in like so. I'm going to do that all the way around our hat, so don't have to be too neat. Okay, so just coming up to the end, just in, out, and in, out. Shake it all about until you get back to the beginning. You want to pull nice and tightly, tight as you can, so it starts to come in, and any remaining hole you can either sew up or we are going to cover with a pom-pom. So if you want to make it smaller, just keep going round nearer the top. Just roughly now. Until the hole gets smaller. Then, when you're happy, we just, there we go, that's good. We can stop there. I might just do one more. And we're going to keep this length of yarn to help sew on our pom-pom. So that hole's come in nice and small now, so that's good. And hopefully you've got something that looks like this. So you can see it coming together. If you do it nice and evenly, then you shouldn't have any distortions or anything like that. If you want to avoid this, if you have got a colour change and you don't want that extra different colour strip, then just work a single crochet or a half double crochet instead of a slip stitch. That should avoid that happening if you don't like that. And okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to make a pom-pom. I'm not going to show you how to make a pom-pom in this tutorial because it'll take too long, but if you want to know how to make a pom-pom, I use the Clover pom-pom makers. I've got a video on that tutorial and I'll put a link to that in the description, so you can go and watch that, make a pom-pom, and come back. I'm making quite a large pom-pom. This is, I'm not sure what size this is, but I'd say about 3 inches in size, this pom-pom maker. So making quite a big pom-pom. So I'm going to do that, then I shall come back with my pom-pom. I'm going to use the same yarn that I've used for the hat, so the colours match. I might go for a mixture of this colour and this colour, because I've run out of that colour. And we'll take it from there. I'm also going to sew in all my other tail ends as well. When you sew in your tail ends, just thread them onto your yarn needle and make sure you sew them into the same colour, so a similar colour, and I just go up, back down, then up again, and then just cut off the excess like that. That should be good enough. Okay, so I shall do that and then I shall come back and show you pretty much the finished hat. Okay, so I finished making my pom-pom using the same yarn as the hat, and I've got a little bit of yarn left over from when I tied the pom-pom. And remember, the secret to a good pom-pom is wrapping around your pom-pom maker lots of times, so it's almost flat in line with this, and then you'll have a nice super fluffy pom-pom. What we're going to do now though is we're just going to sew this on to our hat using this leftover yarn. And the first thing to do is we're just going to go find roughly the centre of your pom-pom and sew through. Pull nice and tight, and then we're going to go back down, keeping that nice and tight. And go back down through and out through the centre of your hat, which is easier said than done. You have to feel it. So you may prefer to use a blunt sewing needle for this. Pull it nice and tight, and then sew that into place a little bit. And then I shall use this piece as well to sew it. So keep sewing on your pom-pom until it's nice and tight. And then that's pretty much it. And there we go, finished sewing on my pom-pom on the end, so that's nice and secure. And all that's left to do is to just flatten out your brim and then fold it over so it fits exactly. I'm getting pom-pom dust everywhere. So it fits exactly. If it's too curly and that annoys you, you can sew some little tacks in place. I'm getting this pom-pom dust everywhere. You can sew it in place there if you want to, just in various places, or you can sew along there of the same colour. But it should get used to being in that position, and all that's left to do now is put it on our little mannequin, see what it looks like. Let's take this other one off. So it's exactly the same pattern but using a different yarn, and let's put this on. And there we go, there's the finished beanie, like that. Finished knit stitch beanie. And of course when you fold it over, the knit stitch on the brim will match up the knit stitch on the top of the hat. So there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you managed to follow along, and hopefully you can make some really nice beanies for Christmas presents or whatever you want to make them for, just to keep your head warm. But I'll see you soon for some more crochet fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.